You all know there are hundreds of betting sites out there, but don't be fooled. Some sites are legal in some states only, some sites pay in Bitcoin, and some sites have even been hacked. However, BetUS has been in business for over 30 years. They have future bets that are paying out in the thousands, and there's still time for you to bet on the Super Bowl, the National Championship, and even the NBA Championship. Just use the QR code right here, and it will take you to the BetUS site. BetUS. Check it out and bet responsibly. Are you a fellow car guy? I have a 2008 Ford Mustang GT convertible, and nothing makes me happier in that car than when it's nice and clean. And you know who helps me get there? RevAutoCarCare.com. They help me get that pony looking as nice and shiny and ready for any of the car meetups that are all around the great city of El Paso. Spoil your car and go to RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton and view all the inventory they have and find out what works for you to help make your ride shine. RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton. Use promo code Tipton33 at checkout to save 15%.
Que le pongamos música pa' que baile hasta abajo la bebé. Pedimos par de botellas.
I should probably turn my mic on. What's going on, everybody? You are tuned in to the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We are jamming today here on a Tuesday. We are coming at you live on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, and of course on Roku via the National Streaming Sports app. Shout out to our friends over at National Streaming Sports. Check out all the stuff that they have to offer over there at National Streaming Sports. Download the app on Roku. Once again, they've got a whole bunch of different programs that are out there as well. Always a fun time whenever we get to hang out together on National Streaming Sports. Now, a lot of stuff has happened over the last 24 hours in the sports world. I always worry about this time of the year. Still dealing with a migraine, guys. Sorry about that. Luckily, I've got appointments later on today with the VA, but still dealing with the migraines. Once again, apologies. But we got a lot of stuff that happened over the last 24 hours in the NFL, in the NBA. Jimmy Butler being suspended indefinitely by the Heat. I'm going to have some opinions on that. Of course, the Dallas Cowboys introduced their new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, and Pete Carroll introduced as the head coach in Las Vegas for the Raiders. The Jets being non-committal to Aaron Rodgers, which to me is that's a pretty big deal. So we'll see how that goes forward in the future with the New York Jets. But I want to start, obviously, because I am a Dallas Cowboys fan, where I found some interesting, at least in my opinion, some interesting things with the Dallas Cowboys, and that is with the introduction of their new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer has been with the team the last couple of years, offensive coordinator with the Seattle Seahawks before that. Obviously, the last name Schottenheimer, his father, a former head coach in the NFL for quite some time. With the Chargers was most recently when LaDainian Tomlinson was doing his thing, right? They ran into buzzsaws. That was always the thing with Marty Schottenheimer, was they kind of ran into buzzsaws. And that's what happened to them with the Chargers. That's what happened to him with the Browns, right? Like Brian Schottenheimer, or Marty Schottenheimer, legendary NFL head coach. Brian Schottenheimer now introduced yesterday as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. And this is what he had to say at his introductory press conference.
From a football family, the Schottenheimers to the Jones, thank you guys for this incredible, incredible opportunity. And I look forward to working so closely with the entire family in continuing the legacy and tradition of this football team and the special brand that it has. I'm honored and privileged to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I'd like to just talk briefly about some of the people that we're looking for. And there's a lot of those young men in the back of the room here that, as you guys will learn from me, the Schottenheimers tend to be criers. And that just means we show our emotions. And so the type of people we're looking for that are modeled by a lot of the young men in the back that I will talk directly to them in a minute is just a special group. We're looking for world-class competitors, guys that want to compete every day to be the best versions of themselves. We are looking for people with a relentless work ethic. I was taught at a young age by my father that you can outwork people in this business. You don't belong in this organization if you don't value relationships. This business has never been about X's and O's. It's about people. And when I thought about it, I can't imagine sitting up here with a better group of people, a better family to do this with. So I thank you guys for that opportunity. And lastly, the type of people that we want, people that love this game. The game of football has given me so much, my family so much, but if you're not passionate about the game of football and the shield and what it represents, then you're probably in the wrong line of business.
That right there, the introduction of Brian Schottenheimer to the Dallas Cowboys as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. Once again, he was there the last couple of seasons as offensive coordinator, basically helping install the offense for Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy, the offensive play caller. Again, I'm kind of torn on this signing of Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Again, I have zero expectations, and maybe that's on me being just a relentless jerk, right? But I do like the family legacy thing, right? And this is, again, me kind of removing myself from my fandom. Nobody gave Kyle Shanahan any, backlash, any of this stuff after learning from his dad. His dad, though, a little more successful, I would say, than Marty Schottenheimer was. Once again, Marty Schottenheimer, the father of Brian Schottenheimer. And Brian kind of references his dad and stuff like that. I'm going to play a little bit of audio in today's show from yesterday's introductory press conference of Brian Schottenheimer to the Dallas Cowboys as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. So Brian talks about his dad just a little bit, and it's one of those things where it's like one of those feel-good moments, right?
My father was a legendary coach, a great man, but he was an incredible father. And he's impacted me more than anyone in this profession. I know he's looking down on me. I know he's proud, and I miss him very much. But I know what he'd say to me. He'd say, Brian, the easy part is over. It's time to get to work. I love you, Dad. Thank you, everybody that's here. Go Cowboys.
Oh, look at that. You talk about a way to ingratiate yourself to an audience right there. It's like, oh, yeah, it's time to get to work. I love that. Like, that's always coach speak to me. That's one of those things where, like, if you're an athlete, it just gets you motivated and ready to go, right? Like, you want to start running through a wall on behalf of Brian Schottenheimer, the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And obviously, they're going to ask Jerry about it. And with this audio that Jerry's about to say right now, it really makes me wonder. I'll play the audio first, then we'll talk a little bit about it. But Jerry, obviously, no one can say that he's not invested in the team. No one can say that Jerry isn't, the biggest Dallas Cowboys fan that's out there, right? Like, obviously, he put his money where his mouth is. But this is what Jerry had to say whenever he was asked about hiring Brian Schottenheimer.
Now, I get my proverbial ass kicked over needing people in my comfort zone. Without this thing being about me in any way, if you don't think I can operate out of my comfort zone, you're so wrong. It's unbelievable. This is as big a risk as you could take. As big a risk as you could take. No head coaching experience. Now, let me share something with you. With all of that, You've just heard him reference his osmosis, his family. Anybody in this room that doesn't believe the apple doesn't go far from the tree has missed it someplace down the road.
There it is. Jerry Jones referencing, like, look, if you don't think the apple doesn't fall from the tree, you've missed it somewhere along the road, right? Like, hearkening back to he's probably going to learn some of these things from his dad. That's where the hope is, right? That's where the hope trafficking is going to start for the Dallas Cowboys. Is we are going to hope that he, Brian Schottenheimer, can be as successful, if not more, than his father, right? Like that's the goal that they have for Brian Schottenheimer. I feel like it's an unnecessary pressure. I don't know if anybody, whenever Kyle Shanahan got hired, if anybody was like, oh, this guy's going to be just as good as his dad, multiple time Super Bowl winner. Not that easy to do, right? Like Marty Schottenheimer, again, legendary, more than likely Hall of Fame head coach in the NFL. And then Jerry goes on and says some of this.
So I've seen it when I was a pup. I have a good background in the makeup of what a coach is. To think that you could make a decision in an interview and not have talked, if you didn't and hadn't ever communicated or had a visit, I wouldn't dare have had an interview unless I talked to many, many people.
Jerry Jones right there, you can hear he gets emotional, right? And I was thinking at first that it was the emotion of the moment, right? Like maybe that's what it is. It's the emotion of the moment. There's so much that goes on whenever it goes into hiring a brand new head coach. Again, like it cannot be lost on Jerry Jones that, you know, what his age is. This could be, again, I know it sounds super morbid, but it could be the last coaching hire that Jerry Jones gets to make in the position that he's in as the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, right? Tommy Canazza saying Jerry always cries. He's so dramatic. And this is where I was headed to. Thank you, Tommy Carranza. Galaxy brain working here, right? When you hear the way that Jerry talks, it's almost like he was just listening into people, right? Like what people had to say. Again, I'm going to go back to that first sound of audio just so we can hear that one more time from Jerry Jones.
Now, I get my proverbial ass kicked over needing people in my comfort zone.
He's sitting there talking about how he gets his ass kicked because he needs people in his comfort zone, right? I think that's always been something that kind of has been one of those traits about Jerry Jones is what does he think with the people that he hires? Like he's got to have a yes man. He's got to have people that are willing to genuflect towards him. Tommy Canasta saying Galaxy brain. Oh yeah, no, we're looking at this big picture right now, right? And then going back and listening to that other piece of audio where he says,
talk, if you didn't and hadn't ever communicated or had a visit, I wouldn't dare have had an interview unless I talked to many, many people.
It's almost as if this hire of Brian Schottenheimer, which, you know, Brian comes in, he says all the things that you're supposed to say as the new guy being welcomed into the Dallas Cowboys. He says all the right things, right? Obviously, that's super generic coach speak. But it feels like, with just the way Jerry Jones was talking yesterday, that it was almost a big middle finger to everyone out there being like, oh, no, look, I'm 82. I can get out of my comfort zone. But it also feels like, once again, with this team being in the salary cap hell that they are, that it's more than likely Brian Schottenheimer being set up to fail. I'm a firm believer, and that's what's happening right here for the Dallas Cowboys, right? Like, I listened to it. I was listening to the whole press conference, and me to myself, I was like, hell yeah, let's go Cowboys, right? And if anyone knows anything about me, I hate press conferences. I think they're a huge waste of time. You go in, you say nothing, right? Like it's always the same thing. How did you lose this game? Oh, the other team scored more points than we did. Duh, right? Like that's what press conferences are. A huge waste of time to me. People have always gotten on me, especially here locally, like, why don't you go to the press conferences for the local university, right? Because press conferences are a huge waste of time. Also, why do I need to go into a stuffy ass locker room that smells really bad when I can watch it on YouTube? Again, I think a little differently with this stuff. But I look at like I listen to it, right? And you kind of see Jerry Jones. He does the whole thing. He gets the waterworks going for him. He's like, I had a good upbringing. I know what it's like. I know what to look for in a coach. He was there. And for the people that don't know, Jerry Jones has had like this resurgence in who he is as a person, right? Like just as an individual, where Jerry Jones has been acting. And I cannot be the only one who listens to that audio, listens to, again, this very first part of the audio here.
So I've seen it when I was a pup.
Where Jerry Jones is tearing up. He's got the tears coming out. Like I when I was a pup, first off, super old guy reference to refer to yourself as a pup. But it almost felt like that's what would be cued, right? Like you say this, cue tears, and then come back and try to say something inspiring. That's what that felt like to me. And maybe it's just me being the untrusting SOB that I am, right? Maybe it's that, where I don't take anything that Jerry Jones is saying in this press conference as genuine, because it feels like just a big middle finger to everybody that is a Dallas Cowboys fan, to the media that's out there that's been critical of Jerry Jones, to sit there and say, this is a huge risk because it's a guy that has no head coaching experience. Roku, I'm apologize for what I'm about to say. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Clearly, it's a huge risk. But all it was the Dallas Cowboys, their ownership and brass, trying to cover their rear end because they were caught with their pants down, not expecting Mike McCarthy to walk away. End of discussion. Period. Dot. Right? Like that's how it is. And a lot of the times you can say, oh, well, that's just what it looks like, right? I'm a firm believer in perception is reality. Your perception is your reality. Jerry Jones hires Brian Schottenheimer because he didn't, one, have a backup plan for getting rid of Mike McCarthy, and two, basically is punting on this next season. And I get it. Like, I love what Brian Schottenheimer had to come in here and say. And I feel like he's in a lose-lose situation because if they tank this season, he's going to be fired. If they win this season and he loses in the playoffs, it's going to be more of the same. Short of winning a Super Bowl, Brian Schottenheimer is going to be looked at as a failure of a head coach. I had to think about this yesterday because I was listening to some podcasts, right? And they were all talking about Sean McDermott, and the Buffalo Bills. What do the Bills need to do to get better? What do the Bills need to do to get over that hump? And it always felt like maybe they need to fire Sean McDermott, right? Like maybe that's some of the stuff that was out there. Maybe we fire Sean McDermott. And the rebuttal to that was, how do you fire a coach who wins 68 to 70% of his games in the regular season? You just did that to Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's win percentage entering this season with the Dallas Cowboys was up at 68%. The last 3 seasons prior to this one, Mike McCarthy had a 71% win percentage for the Dallas Cowboys. Yet coming into the season, everyone out there was wanting his head rolling and on a pike because he just couldn't get it done. That's how quick we turn on coaches. That's ultimately going to be Sean McDermott's future in Buffalo. Tommy Cananza saying that he doesn't watch Jerry's press conferences anymore. He says a whole lot of nothing and speaks a whole bunch of lies, then talks about the 90s. He thinks we're stupid or something. Augustine coming in says, I disagree. Schottenheimer's prime directive is to steer the ship, is to keep at least a winning record. I understand that. Again, I genuinely do. I obviously, as a head coach, that is your prime directive. I feel so old right now. Again, dealing with this effing migraine that I've had since Sunday. I get that that's the prime directive, right? Is winning and having a winning record. If that's the case, Jason Garrett had a winning record for the Dallas Cowboys. Wade Phillips had a winning record for the Dallas Cowboys, right? Like, that's not all it comes down to. Tommy Cananza saying the expectations are higher in Dallas. 100%, right? And again, it's not because of a spoiled fan base. It's because of the narrative that's out there, all the talk, right? Everything that's just being spewed out there all the time of, oh, well, did you make an NFC championship game? Did you win a Super Bowl? The drought, the drought, the drought, the drought, the drought. Well, you don't hear it in regards to other teams, right? And sure, we can say the Washington Commanders made an NFC championship game more recently than the Dallas Cowboys. It also took them much longer, right? My friends that are Philadelphia Eagles fans, whenever I'm sitting here joking around saying, look, I want Philadelphia to lose in the Super Bowl as cold as possible. And they reply to me saying, well, it doesn't win a championship for Dallas, disregarding the fact it took them 52 years to win their first Super Bowl, right? Nobody has the spotlight on them the way that the Dallas Cowboys do. And it's so unfair, at least in my opinion, it's so unfair for Brian Schottenheimer's first head coaching job to follow this particular season with the Dallas Cowboys, where you can rely if you really want to, right? If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, you can rely on, and especially if you are just, mind clouded, got the blinders on like a horse or something of that nature. If you really wanted to, you can say it was injuries. Imagine how much better this team would have been if Dak was healthy at the end of the season, right? Like, they did put together a pretty good tail end of the season. Obviously not enough, but you have in your quiver the arrow of this team was injured a lot and deeply, right? Like you're missing Zach Martin. That's a Hall of Fame player for the Dallas Cowboys on that offensive line that was so young and just discombobulated. You need that anchor in there. What happens if Dak isn't injured? What happens if Trayvon Diggs isn't injured? What happens if Micah Parsons doesn't have to miss 6 games? What if DeMarcus Lawrence is healthy, right? Like, there's so much what if with the Dallas Cowboys that you can rely on if you are a Dallas Cowboys fan. And just looking at what that's going to mean for Brian Schottenheimer is, if this team is healthy next year, the expectation is going to be they need to make they need to make the playoffs minimum. That team is not built to make the playoffs. Dallas Cowboys fans, I hate to be the one to tell you this. They are not going to make the playoffs next year. This is a bad team with a bad roster. And Brian Schottenheimer's first head coaching gig to be this, the dude was set up for failure from day one. And then given that stamp from Jerry Jones of, I'm going to cry for this guy. Oh, okay. Now that just proves to people out there, or it's confirmation bias to the people that are out there, that this is just going to be another one of Jerry's guys. Another one of the guys that's going to bend the knee towards Jerry and just whatever you wish, my liege, right? That's what people are going to think about that. Augustine saying there are no expectations in Dallas. Let's be honest. For me, I agree with that. But you're also the same guy that's like, I assure you, that if they have a winning record and they don't make the playoffs, you are not going to sit back and say, oh, no, it was a good season for the Cowboys. What you're going to say is, but did they win a Super Bowl? Because that's all your, once again, known you for a decade, that's all your measurement of success is, right? So you can sit back and say there's no expectations in Dallas, but you have expectations for Dallas. Again, a completely unattainable expectation. The same thing that I feel, and I'm glad that I wasn't the only one that said this, because I was listening to, I was watching Around the Horn yesterday, first time in a long time that I had watched Around the Horn yesterday, and they were talking about the unattainable goal that winning and making it to the NFC Championship game for the Washington Commanders, what that does for that team now is it puts pressure on an extremely young team to make it back there again. And the chance of that happening is so de minimis that it's more than likely not going to happen in Jaden Daniels' future. That's what the expectation is all the time for the Dallas Cowboys, because the haters and the fans and everyone out there gets to have that of, this team had so much success that even a winning record, even a playoff appearance, making it to the divisional round, if you get one playoff win, but you don't make it to an NFC Championship game, that the season is a waste. Look at the last, let me rephrase that. Look at 3 of the last 4 years for the Dallas Cowboys, a 12-win record each of those 3 years. Made it to the playoffs, had a win in there, but didn't do what everyone expected the Dallas Cowboys to do, which is make a deep playoff run. Again, I think this team next year is going to be bad. Let me rephrase that. I know this team next year is going to be bad. And I feel, and maybe it's me, like, again, like being an empath. Believe it or not, I'm a very empathetic person. But maybe it's me being empathetic to Brian Schottenheimer and realizing that this guy was set up. I hate to see people be put in a position where the expectation is so unattainable. And it's because I can relate to that. I was told whenever I got hired at iHeart, if I didn't reach a certain goal, that there was going to be no funding for my show, there was going to be no backing for my show, etc., etc. Granted, in just the small period of time I was there, I was able to tie in the ratings the legacy radio station that was there, but I was never able to actually get the sales staff and other people like that to actually sell the show, because it didn't reach the mark that it needed to reach in order for them to do that. That's where Brian Schottenheimer is right now, right? Like he's in a position where no matter what he does, unless they win a lot, it's going to be looked at as a terrible job. And I feel so bad for that guy. Like, I genuinely do feel bad for Brian Schottenheimer as just a person, right? I hope, like, I genuinely hope that the Dallas Cowboys can rally behind him. I genuinely hope that maybe, just maybe, there could be something that the Dallas Cowboys do where they can prove me wrong and me saying that this is a terrible team. Maybe they can do something a little different, and maybe they can be okay. But I sincerely doubt it, right? Again, 21 players that they're about to lose in free agency. A ton of coaching turnover now, right? Like you just lost your defensive backs coach in Al Harris, who I thought should have been the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. There's just so much against Brian Schottenheimer that the poor dude is not going to be able to reach it. Obviously, I hope as a Dallas Cowboys fan that they have a halfway decent season. I also hope as a Dallas Cowboys fan that if they're going to be bad, they are historically bad, and we get a number 1 overall pick and we can trade a bunch of stuff down and just hoard draft picks over the next couple of years as the salary cap for the Dallas Cowboys begins to dwindle and you get out of the hell that you're in right now. Please, just please, Dallas Cowboys, do not restructure any more deals. If you have to, just in order to get a couple of players signed, go ahead and do that. But let the big contracts come to their eventual end. And now you can actually focus on building a team. Ooh. That went a lot further than I thought it was going to with the Brian Schottenheimer introductory press conference for the Dallas Cowboys. But I love that. Expectations are bigger in Dallas. And then Augustine saying there are no expectations in Dallas, let's be honest. I love that. I love that viewpoint. Two just combating viewpoints. Augustine going on to say, I hope they stink just enough to not have the number 1 pick. It's going to be like this season, right? Where I said, you know what, if you're bad, you get like a top 5, top 10 pick. We'll be all right. And they get a top 12 pick. And you look at this draft, and you're like, damn, like who's going to be out there? I'm hoping, again, factoring trafficking in hope. That's all I'm doing now as a Dallas Cowboys fan. Trafficking in hope. That maybe, just maybe, Ashton Genty falls down to 12. And then now you can have that dual threat running back that you need for the Dallas Cowboys. Address the offensive line in the draft. Address the defensive line in the draft. Nothing else would be that bad. I get that. Like Augustine saying what a lot of people out there say, right? Like, even if they get the number 1 overall pick, it's still Jerry Jones that they've got to deal with. Say what you will, he's done pretty good in the draft, man. Right? Like getting Dak Prescott in the 4th round. The last time they had a high draft pick at, number 4, I want to say it was, they drafted Zeke Elliott, right? Like, they've done well in the draft. The last 2 number 1 overall, or the last 2 first-round picks for the Dallas Cowboys in Najee Smith and Tyler Guyton haven't been great. I think Tyler Guyton could probably get better. Awesome Richards being there, I think, also helps out. That's going to help create depth for the Dallas Cowboys. But Jerry's done okay in the draft, right? Like, I don't think he's done bad. Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, like, they've been good. They've been good. Tommy Cananza saying the exact same thing that I like. This is my fear. Again, I've got to start working on the shirt. Shout out to my dude, James Steele. Awful for Arch. That's what we've got to do. Just tank, right? Tommy Cananza saying the Cowboys will screw it up and limp into the playoffs as a 7 seed next year. Just watch. Oh man, like, I really feel like that's going to happen too. And you know what the worst part of it is, Tommy, is I'm going to sit back there and I'm going to come into this season being like, let's just suck. Again, if you're going to lose historic. I'm a huge fan of that mindset, right? If you're going to lose historic. I think about it with my high school football team, the Socorro Bulldogs. Got nothing but love for my people down in Socorro. But going into the 2020 season with COVID, the Socorro Bulldogs had lost, I want to say it was about 70 some odd games. I want to say it was in the high 70s. It might have been 72. Something out of me is saying 72, but it was in the 70s. A losing streak of 70-plus games. And the record for the state of Texas was like 84. So I was like, all you got to do is just lose. Lose this season, lose half of next season, and boom, you've set a record. Because at least if you set a record as a loser, you lost, and people are going to remember it, right? If you just lose a bunch of games and you don't set a record, you just lost a bunch of games and no one's going to remember that. So if you're going to lose historic. Dallas Cowboys, I plead to you. Begging almost. If you're going to enter this season, lose historic. Go 0-17. I am good with it. Lose every game by like 4 or 5 touchdowns. I'm good with it. Stock up on draft capital. That's what I want. Dallas Cowboys, I'm looking you in the eyes. Please, if you're going to lose this year, lose historic. None of this bull crap like what we did this year of, oh my goodness, let's lose a lot of games and then give people hope and then suck at the end of the season. None of that nonsense. If you're going to lose historic. Be like this team. And then one day you can break the chains. I think I should talk about that one day. The break the chains thing that I did with the University of Texas at El Paso. They hated me for quite some time. Augustine saying, wait, did you just say that Dak was a good pick for being a 4th-round draft pick? He was a great pick. What are you talking about? Like, genuinely, what are you talking about? Micah Parsons has shown that he is extremely overrated. Okay, now you're just saying things to say. Come on now. Tommy Carranza saying, not the last 2 drafts. Tommy also going on to say, I got to be at Philly, Washington, and New York at least once. Okay, so they got to beat them at least once, right? Like, at least that. 3-14 ain't bad. You can still get Arch. Okay, so just splitting the division. I'm with you. I like that. Okay, at least Dallas Cowboys. Split with the division. That's all we want. The rest of it, cool. Go out and lose to Kansas City. You get the AFC West next year. Jesus Christ, the Cowboys' schedule is going to be hell now that I think about it. So next year, the Dallas Cowboys, they're alternate divisions, right? If you don't know how scheduling works in the NFL, you're about to learn today. You play your division, so you got 6 games against your division, and then you get alternating divisions, right? So, like, I believe this year we had the NFC South, and I want to say we had the AFC South. Yeah, I guess we had the AFC South. I gotta try to remember what the schedule was for the Dallas Cowboys. No, the AFC North. So next year, the Dallas Cowboys are going to have a 3rd place schedule because they finished 3rd place in their division. But they also play against the AFC West, which had 3 playoff teams this year, and the NFC North, which had 3 playoff teams this year. It's going to be bad next year for the Dallas Cowboys. Beat the Raiders, split in the division. You get 4 wins, 4-13. I'm good with it, Tommy. Oh, no, you know what we're doing? We're starting to add wins here because I think they could probably beat the Bears too. Oh, God. 5-12, not a number 1 split with the division and beat the Raiders. That's all I ask for. 4 wins will get you the number 1 overall seed. The number 1 overall draft pick, rather. Tommy Carranza going on to say, we'll have a 3rd place schedule. It can't be that bad. Again, at least 6 games against 6 playoff teams, and not counting the 2 that were in your division. So now you've got 10 games against playoff teams. Minimum. It's going to be a tough road for the Dallas Cowboys up here. A tough road to hoe, as some would say. Oh man, I hate that I love that team, but it's okay. USA. I'm gonna have to get like the muscle relaxing lotions and things of that nature in order to get those things to work. I have got to reply to a message. I'll do that in just a little bit as well. Tommy Canassa saying whenever we think they're going to be bad, they end up with the number 1 overall seed. Yeah. I feel like that's what's going to happen with the Dallas Cowboys. That, again, like, as a player, I would love what I heard from Brian Schottenheimer. That's a dude that I genuinely feel that you can get behind. You can tell he loves football. He hasn't had the easy path despite being a Nepo baby, right? Like even though he's in the NFL because of nepotism, you can tell he hasn't had an easy path to get to where he is. And that's a dude that I feel like people can rally behind, right? And I know that this team is going to go into next year feeling that they've got something to prove. And I feel like it's going to be major league-ish of them to just be like, let's see what we can do. Everyone thinks we're going to lose. Let's show them. Right? Like, I feel like that's what's going to happen with the Dallas Cowboys. They'll get the number 1 overall seed, they'll get a bye, and they lose in the division round. Because why the hell wouldn't they? They're the Dallas Cowboys, and that's what they do. Half of their existence has been just absurd failure. And I can't even say half, it's more like 2/3. It might even be 80% of their existence has just been absurd failure after failure. Let's not forget, in the 1960s, they were always referred to as the champion of next year. Even in the 1970s, making it to the Super Bowls, right? And it was still like, oh, well, you've only got 2. You should have had more, despite the fact that the Steelers were a buzzsaw. In the 80s, they were the hottest of dog crap. In the 90s, they were great. Early 90s, they were great. In the early 2000s, I think I'm going to do this on the show one of these days where I have people, join the show and I come up with like things to give them as prizes for naming all of the quarterbacks between Troy Aikman to Tony Romo, because it was a shed ton. Shed. I said shed. I didn't say the other thing. Do not take away my small monetization on YouTube there, YouTube. I got a 3-cent deposit the other day. There's 3 cents. I'll take my 3 cents. Tommy Kanata saying, at least there would be continuity on offense? Question mark. Hashtag optimism. Augustine, pause. I'm gonna say this in the way that I feel like Augustine said it in his head too, which is, just give me some meat. I don't know what that's referring to. I genuinely don't know what that's referring to. Although I did see in my memories over the weekend that it was the 5th year anniversary of the Mike Tipton meat slinging tour, baby. I feel bad for the Roku audience that has no idea what the Mike Tipton meat slinging tour was, because y'all missed an amazing point in time. Tommy, I'm pretty sure Tommy had to see some of the stuff that I was doing with the meat slinger. I got in so much trouble with that. God, oh man, that was a fun time though. Maybe that'll be the next time that I do story time, right? Where I talk a little bit about the UTEP break the chains thing that I did, where they got real genuinely PO'd at your boy. And where I talk about the repercussions of the Mike Tipton meat slinging tour of 2020. For those that like just the background on the meat slinging tour, it's not what it sounds like. We had like meat trucks come into El Paso, and I had to try to get through the radio station people to go out there and buy meat from a meat truck. Halfway decent meat too. Like, I know people were hating on it. It was halfway decent. But maybe that's just me, because the meat slinger knows how to do what Augustine says and give the people the meat. I'm like Arby's. I should get a sponsorship from Arby's. That'd be great. Anyway, again, focus. Squirrel over here. Want to give a shout out to everyone that's tuned in on Roku via National Streaming Sports. Check out what National Streaming Sports has to offer. All of the plethora of sports news and knowledge that our friends over at National Streaming Sports have to offer. Some great insight from some great people. Check them out. Amazing shows running throughout the whole day. Our friends over at National Streaming Sports, we're streaming live right now on Roku. Remember, we are brought to you by our friends over at RevAutoCarCare.com. I'm just realizing as I said that I say the word my friends way too much. We are brought to you by RevAutoCarCare.com. That's RevAutoCarCare.com. Use promo code Tipton33 and save up to 15% on all of your car care needs. We are going to be announcing a couple of new sponsors coming up over the next couple of days. I'm super excited about that as well. So it's going to be a fun time for us to kind of help maybe ish grow the show and what we're trying to do here. Please, everyone, go out, support the people that support this show. I appreciate y'all's support of this nonsense that I do as well. So myhappynuts.com, RevAutoCarCare.com. Soon we're going to have W Energy, and then I've Got a Buddy. I've got some great shirts coming out with I've Got a Buddy as well. Oh, man. Okay. So I see a couple of people here that are missing off of your list. Because yes, there was Quincy Carter, Drew Henson, Drew Hutchinson. Why can't I think of Wright's first name? Oh, I can't get it. Ryan Leaf, Clint Stoerner, Vinny Testaverde, Drew Bledsoe, Tony Romo, Dak Prescott. But we're also missing Rodney Pete was in there. Rodney. Randall Cunningham was in there as well. I'm telling you, man. Oh, God. There we go. Anthony Wright. Jesus. I can't believe I forgot his name. Obviously, you know what? I can believe that I forgot his name. A ton of quarterbacks over there. I remember being in high school and thinking to myself that Clint Stoerner was going to be the savior of the Dallas Cowboys. And I was dead wrong. Just dead wrong. And then I remember, like, whenever I first got back to El Paso, I was trying to find, like, a niche audience and do things like that. I was broadcasting games for the Rio Grande Football League, which was a semi-professional football league. And Brad Johnson, that's a good one. That is a good one. We're just taking a stroll down memory lane, buddy. I also feel like you've got Google up now. There's something going on here where you've got Google going on with you. I'm joking. But and like I was doing one of these games for the Rio Grande Football League, and the quarterback for a team out of Amarillo, I want to say it was Quincy Carter. And I thought to myself, you were the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys for any period of time, but now you're playing semi-professional football. How quickly we plummet down to not just earth, but I mean, you've got like, he was like a missile that went right through all of the earth's mantle and crust and was just there at the core being burned alive. Because when you go from the Dallas Cowboys to semi-professional football, you're doing something wrong, my guy. And he got picked off like 4 times in the semi-professional football game. Oh, that had to be sad for him. Could you imagine going through all that? Anyway. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about, because I started the show with this, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it as well. The Heat's drama, the Miami Heat's drama with Jimmy Butler. And for those that don't know, one, you've got to be living under a rock. But Jimmy Butler has basically come into this season, even during the offseason, was like, hey, I would look good in gold and purple, trying to basically hint that he wasn't happy in Miami. And apologies. And as he was like making these hints and stuff like that, you can tell that he was mentally checked out on the Miami Heat team. And it's just a part of the drama that comes with Jimmy Butler, right? And the Heat suspended him a couple of games earlier in the season. They suspend him 7 games after conduct detrimental to the team. He goes into a practice after missing a practice, and the Heat say, well, you're not going to start. Into this, like, you're not going to start today. You're going to come off the bench. He throws a hissy fit, leaves practice, and the Heat say, okay, well, we are going to suspend you indefinitely. Tommy Canazza going on to say, because we were talking about the issues with the Dallas Cowboys and the quarterback, saying, no, I was there through all of the misery, not to mention the Matt Castles and the other guys who stepped in between Dak and Romo, LOL. Oh, yeah, not John Kitna. The John Kitna run that we had. Oh, that was great. Jesus, man. The Dallas, I think Kyle Orton was in there as well. Oh. But Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat are going through what is a nasty, nasty divorce. And this is the 3rd time now that he's going to be suspended this season with the Miami Heat. And all signs are pointing to the Heat are going to trade him, the Heat are going to do this, blah, 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 blah. The thing is that with what he did yesterday, with what Jimmy Butler did yesterday, just walking out of the team, they are able to suspend him and fine him for the games that he's going to miss $540,000 per game. The Players Association is handcuffed in this situation because he walked out on his contract. So they can't even be like, oh, you can't fine him that much. That's not something you can do, because he's the one, Jimmy Butler, who is going back on his contract with the Miami Heat. Butler walking out of practice because they wanted to take him off of the bench because of all the stuff that he has going on. If I'm the Miami Heat, I don't trade him. He's suspended. He doesn't even have to come into the building, and he's going to get fined for every single game he misses. So now, and I don't mean like a small $5,000 fine, right? It's a $540,000 fine. He's going to miss a minimum of 5 games going into the trade deadline, which is on February 6th. So that right there is going to be $2.5 million plus of how much he's going to have to pay the Miami Heat. If I'm the Miami Heat, I keep your ass there until you prove to me that you don't like losing money. Because if you're the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler is trying to flex on you after you gave him a contract where he's making over $50 million, why? And then that's the thing, like Tommy Canazza saying, if I'm Miami, just trade the guy to someone for whatever you can get and move on. I normally would. And yeah, like maybe Phoenix is going to get you some draft picks and blah, 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 right? But if I'm the Miami Heat, I'd take the power back. He walked out on the team. He's going to have to deal with the suspension. How many games do the Miami Heat have left? I've got to like look in to see what their record is right now. So they're 23-22. So they've played 45 games. That means they have 37 games left. Suspend his ass for those 37 games. And you're going to get what, 18 million or so back? Why wouldn't you, right? I'm just going to do some math here real quick. Yeah. So you would get back a little over $18.5 million. I am tired. I know I sound like the old guy right now, right? I am tired of these players doing this nonsense. And it seems to be the biggest issue that's going on with the NBA right now, right? I feel like this is the reason why the NBA is having the issues that they're having. It's because of all the player movement. And it's all because of like how can you be a Jimmy Butler fan right now and be like, oh no, like he's doing the right thing? At least with LeBron, it was like, yeah, LeBron's the best player in the NBA. He should be able to do whatever the hell he wants. Jimmy Butler isn't even a top 20 guy, top 30 guy. He's not even the best player on his own damn team. Who is he to be causing all this damn drama? And if you're the Phoenix Suns, this is going to be the 4th time that Jimmy Butler has done this to a team. If you're the Phoenix Suns, do you really want to trade all that draft capital to get Jimmy Butler? Is Jimmy Butler going to be the one that gets you over the hump to win an NBA championship? No. If you're any team out there, do you trade away capital to get Jimmy Butler to bring him on your team? No. And I'm not against, players that have been on a whole bunch of teams in their career. But look at how Jimmy Butler has had his exodus from every single team that he's played for. Whether it was the Bulls, whether it was the Timberwolves, whether it was the 76ers, and now with the Miami Heat. And if there's a team out there that you can say is comparable to having a culture similar to that of the San Antonio Spurs, where players love being there, where players love the atmosphere, players love the coach, it's the Miami Heat with Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley. The Heat, to me, have given themselves the benefit of the doubt. And maybe I'm saying it as someone who was a burned Spurs fan with Kawhi Leonard, the way that he forced his way out of San Antonio. Maybe it's just me reliving that. But I don't feel like, at least at that moment, Kawhi Leonard was still a top type player. Jimmy Butler isn't. If you're a team, do you want to take on a $50 million deal, give up the capital you've got to give up for this dude 14 years into his NBA career? I don't think so. Tommy Canazza saying he'll just show up and claim he has injuries. He'll get his money either way. Just trade the guy. If someone actually wants the guy. But that's the thing. He's suspended indefinitely. So, yeah, he can say that he's going to show up and say that he has injuries. That's not going to happen. I feel like if you fight fire with Pat Riley, you normally get burned, right? Like, and that's what it is. Like, Pat Riley is going to be the crotchety old man now that is not going to deal with this BS anymore. And to be honest, I can't blame him. Like, you took a chance on getting Jimmy Butler with you. He's been with you for 6 years. And all this time, yeah, you guys got to 2 NBA finals, you lost. You paid him, I want to say, over $300 million, which is insane to think about. What more could you have done? Tommy Canassa saying, oh, indefinitely, yeah, he's screwed. Oh, no, yeah, he's... And that's what I'm saying. If I'm the Miami Heat, give me back some of that money. You got $48 million this year. You're only going to get 30. Only 30. Because you're going to pay me back 18. Right? Like that's what I would do if I'm the Miami Heat. Because he's not the dude that's going to be able to have the career that I think he thinks that he needs, right? or that he deserves, or that he's got the power that he thinks he has. Jimmy Butler, I think it's done, right? Like, even at the end of the season, if Miami decides, okay, maybe we'll trade you, the Miami Heat, now that Jimmy Butler went back on his end of the contract, this is the thing that he doesn't realize. The Miami Heat can get out of that contract at the end of the season if they truly wanted to. Or they can just keep his ass there on the bench, suspended indefinitely, right? Like, indefinitely means it's up to the team now. And the reason why the team is protected and Jimmy Butler won't get anything from the Players Association as far as backing and help is because he did it to himself. He was so blinded and for lack of a better term, stupid about how he handled this situation that he shot himself in the foot, and now the Players Association is helpless to help him. The Miami Heat were playing chess while Jimmy Butler was playing checkers, thinking that he was going to be the guy that breaks the Miami Heat. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Again, like, Tommy, if there's a team out there that offers the Miami Heat like what we expected Phoenix to do last week, right? They get 3 first-round draft picks from Utah. Maybe they're going to use that to try to trade for Jimmy Butler. If you get a team that's actually going to do that, then cool. But I genuinely feel like right now teams are going to undervalue Jimmy Butler based off of his history, based off of the way that he's acting. He hasn't even been that good for the Miami Heat in the games that he's played over the last 3 years. It's been not just a steady decline, but a visual and plummeting decline for Jimmy Butler in his time with the Miami Heat. Oh, man, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. All right, everybody. I want to thank you all so much for tuning into today's show. Remember, go check out our friends over at National Streaming Sports. Some great content that they have over at National Streaming Sports. Some great people that they've got over there. Once again, Prim and Proper Sports, the national professional sports show that they have every Wednesday with National Streaming Sports. Check out all that they've got to offer over on the Roku channel, the fast channel that they got with Roku. Want to give a shout out to RevAutoCarCare.com. RevAutoCarCare.com. Use promo code Tipton33. Save up to 15% on all of your car care needs. And of course, www.myhappynuts.com. Guys, Valentine's Day right around the corner. Go to www.myhappynuts.com/Mike Tipton. Take care of yourself for that special lady in your life. Or, ladies, listen up. If you've got a guy that's like the Zohan and the bush is the biggest and you don't like it anymore, maybe this is the subtle way to be like, look, help yourself out, my guy. Visually help yourself out. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We will see you all tomorrow on Wednesday. You all know there are hundreds of betting sites out there, but don't be fooled. Some sites are legal in some states only, some sites pay in Bitcoin, and some sites have even been hacked. However, BetUS has been in business for over 30 years. They have future bets that are paying out in the thousands, and there's still time for you to bet on the Super Bowl, the National Championship, and even the NBA Championship. Just use the QR code right here, and it'll take you to the BetUS site. BetUS. Check it out and bet responsibly.